It's 1994 at LaGuardia Airport in New York. 24-year-old Prince Khalid bin al-Saud of Saudi Arabia runs to airport police officers, screaming that he's been kidnapped, and points to the two men who had been accompanying him. If there are any of my loyal subjects here, please call the embassy. And CNN, the prince shouts at stunned onlookers.
And CNN.
The confused airport police officers detain the men, who calmly present some paperwork and explain that they are bail bondsmen. The police allow them all to go. The two men rent a car, throw Prince Khalid into the trunk, and drive 24 hours to Miami. Jose Moreno was born in 1970 in Bogota, Colombia. At age 5, Jose became an orphan, and he and his younger brother, age 3, were forced to fend.
Okay, love that. Right off the jump. Big fan of this kind of RTCA content, okay? This ties perfectly in to what we were talking about.
For themselves on the dangerous streets. Colombia was in the middle of intense military conflict, and thousands of displaced children roamed the streets and sewers, trying to hide from predators and the death squads who targeted them. For 2 years, Jose protected his younger brother fiercely, foraging and stealing food and finding safe places for them to sleep. In 1977, the two boys were picked up by an orphanage, and before they knew it, they were on a plane to Michigan with their new parents, Jim Gignac and Nancy.
By the way, that... God. Anyway, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to say nothing. But also, this is kind of what the Sound of Freedom is about, but like they do it in an identical way. I'm not going to say anything else. I'm just going to say that it is a bit odd that there is a business for this, okay? But it's not like the cartel doing it, and obviously their lives are like oftentimes better than the way they were. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, child trafficking, but legal.
Fitzgerald were a middle-class couple who were eager to give the two brothers a better life. Jose was now Anthony, and his younger brother was now Daniel. Their neighborhood was predominantly white, and the brothers were bullied in school. Anthony began telling his classmates that his biological mother owned a local hotel, and his biological father was a famous actor. He continued telling lies throughout school to make himself seem rich and powerful. He became obsessed with TV shows that depicted wealthy families and started recognizing luxury brand names. In grade 6, he managed to convince a Mercedes-Benz dealership that he was a Saudi prince, and a salesman even took him on test rides. Anthony craved acceptance, and he believed he could attain it through material wealth. A few years later, Jim and Nancy got divorced. Anthony's younger brother Daniel was sent to live with his father, while Anthony stayed with his mum. Suddenly, the one constant in his life was gone, and Anthony suffered major mental breakdowns. He was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but never received proper treatment. His mum could no longer handle him, and Anthony was sent to state-run psychiatric hospitals and halfway houses. He felt abandoned and trapped in these facilities, so at age 17, Anthony ran away and found himself on the streets once again. Anthony decided this was the perfect opportunity to form a new identity for himself. He started going by Prince Adnan Khashoggi, who was a real Saudi arms dealer and the world's richest man at the time. Anthony convinced an Arab family in Michigan that he was a Saudi prince and lived with them for a couple of months until he got caught. He then made his way to the land of glitz and glamour, Los Angeles, and managed to obtain a credit card under the name Omar Khashoggi. He was caught and convicted for failing to pay his $8,600 limousine bill. In 1991, Anthony turned 21 and really started to up the ante.
Victimless
His name
crime.
was now Khalid bin al-Saud.
Victimless crime.
The name of a real Saudi prince.
Bro, that's okay, dude. That's valid. That's justifiable. You should always do this.
He racked up a $3,500 bill at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel over 4 days. He rode around in limos but never paid the $7,500 bill. He convinced the Louis Vuitton store on Rodeo Drive to let him have a set of luggage that his father, a Saudi prince, would pay for later. He was caught and spent a short stint in jail, while the LA Times newspaper dubbed him the Prince of Fraud. That same year, Anthony managed to obtain an American Express.
One thing that I do find really cool is that this was kind of the perfect era. You know what I mean? We're talking like pre-internet, like perfect era for this kind of like con men, for schemes and like this kind of fraudulent activity where like communication is not great. However, nowadays we still have a lot of people that utilize the internet because like now so much of our consciousness is basically uploaded into the net and so much of our existence is online that you can still kind of do fraud, I guess. It's just not as physical. The fraud that you do now, you do by, presenting yourself a certain way online. Tate is a good example of this. Yes, exactly. Andrew Tate does a decent job with this. And has done a decent job with this.
Khalid bin al-Saud. He stayed at the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in San Francisco for several weeks before landing back in jail for 53 days. He then violated his probation and spent Christmas at the luxurious Halekulani Hotel in Hawaii. He befriended other guests at the hotel and conned a couple into writing him a check for $8,500 in shares for a Saudi oil company that didn't exist. He then convinced another couple to cover his $20,000 hotel bill before disappearing. In July 1993, Anthony turned up at Disney's Grand...
Bro, who the ever-loving fuck has 25 grand to just drop like that? That is fucking nuts. Brother, the type of people that he's scamming, like, they have to be... Like, this also seems like I don't want to say victimless crime, but, like, god damn, if you have 25 bills in 1993 to just write off like that, then it's not the end of the world for you. You know what I mean? Nobody's selling the house and the car to be able to help some random person out by giving them a quick 25 bills. That's nuts. Rich people unironically have too much rich people class consciousness for their own good. They stan a fellow rich guy. I'm just saying, like, I've been casting the story in my head. It should be an HBO show. Yeah. The problem is it's not like Anna Delvey, like a cute white lady. So maybe that's the reason why people haven't made this yet. You know what I mean? I just don't. I love con men stories. Catch Me If You Can is great. You know what I mean? But I genuinely don't think that like the people that gave him this kind of money, like they're not losing it. You know what I mean? Like they forget 25 bills on a daily basis.
And Floridian Resort in Orlando, where he ran up over $14,000 in fraudulent credit card charges. He pleaded guilty and was given probation, and once again...
The Catch Me If You Can guy made up his story? No, really? No, wait. Isn't Catch Me If You Can also the television show with the super handsome man? They turned it into like a television show where he would like also work with the FBI to like catch other con men or whatever, like White Collar. Matt Boner. I low-key love that show. Dude, I had my fucking like CW USA era, okay? It's not CW, USA era, where I would watch White Collar, I watched Suits, but it became unwatchable later. But I certainly did like White Collar when I like the earlier seasons.
Vanished. He was caught after he swindled $27,000 out of the Grand Bay Hotel in Miami and $51,000 from the local Saks Fifth Avenue.
Burn notice was never
charged
for
with
me.
Fraud and grand theft. While in jail,
I couldn't get into
as Prince Khalid.
I couldn't get into Burn notice. Sorry, I'm gonna run this back. Hold on.
Grand Bay Hotel in Miami and $51,000 from the local Saks Fifth Avenue. He was charged with fraud and grand theft. While in jail, Anthony, as Prince Khalid, began calling lawyers to pay his bail. He promised that his father, a Saudi prince, would cover all the legal fees. Oscar Rodriguez was an attorney from Miami who saw this as a great business opportunity and agreed to take on the prince as a client. Oscar Rodriguez hired 2 bail bondsmen to post a $46,000 bond to release the prince. The bondsman picked up Anthony and drove him back to their office to wait for the money from the Saudi royal family. But when hours passed with no sign of the money, the bail bondsman had to drive Anthony back to jail. In the car on the way back, Anthony asked the bondsman to stop at an American Express office. He got out of the car, entered the office hysterically crying, and claimed that he had been mugged and all his credit cards had been stolen. He said he was fearful of how upset his father, the king, would be, and begged to get his cards replaced. The American Express staff asked him to verify his identity by correctly stating his last 2 purchases. Little did they know that Anthony had sneakily promised Rolex watches to other staff members who agreed to give him the correct answers. The next day, American Express issued him a platinum card with a $200 million limit.
Oh, dude, this is like, okay, by the way, this low key is like using racism to your advantage. They're like, oh, he's a brown guy and he claims he's Saudi. You know what I mean? He's a brown guy who claims he's Saudi, so like he must be, right? Like if you hit the right kind of like the right sense of entitlement, if you hit that frequency perfectly, these guys are probably used to rich people fucking bullying them all the goddamn time. And the racist patina allows him to like take it to the next level. This is why they constantly lock down my $2,000 credit limit account and I have to call to verify and give info I don't even know about myself. He used racism to his advantage. Free this man.
Anthony went on a shopping spree before...
Also, $200 million? What the fuck? $200 million? $200 million? Like, do Saudi royals... like in the 90s, like what's going on? What, like $200 million in the 90s? Like what the fuck? They were just like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna do 9/11, let's give him the money. Like what is happening? Which, by the way, original 9/11 did happen right at that year by the Blind Sheik, which was failed, the first attempt. I genuinely don't get it. I don't understand. Like I don't understand why a bank would ever do such a thing.
Buying out the entire first-class cabin of his flight to Michigan. He pledged to donate $1 million to a university in his home state. Then he flew back to Miami the same day.
Why?
The 2 bondsmen who accompanied him the entire trip started to believe he really was a Saudi prince, until they received a phone call from the American Express fraud department. This is when the altercation with LaGuardia airport police officers occurred. Anthony was sentenced to 616 days in prison, but being placed behind bars did nothing to stop his...
It's kind of wild that like even financial crimes, I guess like technically it's like kind of a victimless crime, but also even when you're doing rich guy crimes, like even then you get imprisoned for a significantly shorter sentence than like, I don't know, being caught as a poor person with drugs on your body. You know what I mean? Like they were like, well, he's got the rich guy era around him. I mean, the aura of a rich guy around him. So we might as well just like put him in jail for 2 years. Fuck it.
Scam streak. It was now August 1994, and at some point, Anthony had reconnected with his younger brother, Daniel. From prison, Anthony contacted Syracuse University and informed them that Prince Khalid wished to donate $45 million to the school. He requested that the university wire a portion of the taxes from the donation to his bank account based in Michigan. Syracuse wired $16,000 to a bank account held by Daniel Gignac.
Dude, that's awesome. That is fucking awesome. That's so sick.
Both brothers were convicted, with Anthony receiving 46 months for wire fraud. He then had 37 months added to his sentence when he lit his jail cell on fire and spilled shampoo on the floor to make guards trip so he could escape. Anthony continued to run his grifts from prison through the late 90s. He fooled a Yale graduate lawyer and even had a meeting with Johnny Cochran, who was by then famous for his defense of O.J. Simpson. Anthony was released from prison in the early 2000s and returned home to Michigan to live with his mother, Nancy. He went straight back to his old tricks. He was given 2 Cadillacs, no questions asked. He dined and shopped and stayed at hotels without ever paying the bills. All of this was because he convinced people that the Saudi royal family would send payments. In 2003, Anthony was arrested for impersonating.
The internet is this guy's biggest fucking enemy. I swear to God. Like, the window of opportunity is shrinking as like technological advancements are being made. You know what I mean? Like as he advanced through life, the internet is making it harder and harder for him to scheme. And he's also old enough that he can't like really keep up with the technological advancements and he can't use it to his advantage, it seems like. So notice how like the schemes are getting, the window of freedom in between schemes are getting shorter and shorter.
Impersonating a diplomat. He had charged $11,300.
What, Hassan? Wire fraud is still a thing. This is just social engineering. It happens every day. No. I know. That's what I'm trying to say. I already mentioned that. I said that like with the internet, this kind of like physical schemes became harder to do in this way, but he wasn't fast enough to learn like sim swiping. You know what I mean? He wasn't fast enough to learn sim swiping or NFTs or whatever. I mean, look at Jordan Belfort. Greatest example, right? Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street, did his fucking time, came out of prison, and is now deeply invested in cryptocurrencies and NFTs and shit. He's still doing it. Sim swapping. Sorry, did I say swiping? I mean, I guess you could say swiping or swapping. You're technically stealing someone else's sim. You're not physically doing it, but...
dollars at Saks Fifth Avenue and $17,600 at Neiman Marcus to his quote, family accounts. It turned out real Saudi princes and princesses did have accounts at the stores, but they informed the American authorities that they had no association with the Michigan Prince Khalid. This time, Anthony found himself in an interrogation room. He insisted that his name was Khalid bin al-Saud and even had plenty of presumably forged documentation to prove his connections to the Saudi royals.
Anthony Gignac is not my name. I actually legally changed my name to Khalid bin al-Saud. My social security number is Khalid bin al-Saud. My college transcript is Khalid bin al-Saud. I know it's hard to believe. Everybody, I know it's like, you know, this kid is super good. And I mean, I give myself credit for being intelligent.
He's glazing himself. Also, my man literally, he does not sound like a fucking royal. Are you joking? He sounds like Poke through a voice changer, like the Bill Dipperly voice changer. Are you joking? Like, this is the voice that he put on? Like, how did he have any charisma? He's got zero riz. People were, what the fuck was going on? People are dumb as bricks, bro.
Okay, well, let me call the embassy and just show you how I can get a hold of the ambassador from Saudi Arabia.
He even spoke some rather convincing fake Arabic, but ultimately wound up back in prison. He was in and out of prison a few more times over the next decade for running similar scams. It's now 2015. Carl Martin Williamson, a British asset manager with a background in law, was getting ready for a business meeting with a Saudi prince. Carl was well-spoken, charming, and exceedingly skilled at telling lies. He had friends in very high places all around the world, so he was eager to meet with Prince Khalid, aka Anthony Gignac. Anthony had been living large in Miami. He was always covered head to toe in designer clothing and jewelry. He also had a new friend, a tiny chihuahua named Foxy, who never left his side. He had assembled an entourage who followed him everywhere and hired bodyguards who wore fake diplomatic badges. He was renting a 3-bedroom penthouse on the...
Oh my God, the GOAT. Okay, sorry, I gotta run it back. I need to know more. I missed it. He was kind of spitting with the fake, like with the Arabic. I mean, I don't speak Arabic. I've heard Arabic, and it was good enough for me. You know what I mean? Wait, I want to hear.
He even spoke some rather convincing fake Arabic, but ultimately wound up back in prison. He was in and out of prison a few more times over the next decade for running similar scams.
I love that he never gave up on having the shittiest hair of all time. I wonder if it actually like hit him with the... I wonder if that was like that was convincing because they were like, oh, well, you know, it's kind of like the owner of the Raiders. You know what I'm saying? No, I heard the fake Arabic.
Scams. It's now 2015. Carl Martin Williamson, a British asset manager with a background in law, was getting ready for a business meeting with a Saudi prince. Carl was well-spoken, charming, and exceedingly skilled at telling lies. He had friends in very high places all around the world, so he was eager to meet with Prince Khalid, aka Anthony Gignac. Anthony had been living large in Miami. He was always covered head to toe in designer clothing and jewelry. He also had a new friend, a tiny chihuahua named Foxy, who never left his side. He had assembled an entourage who followed him everywhere and hired bodyguards who wore fake diplomatic badges. He was renting a 3-bedroom penthouse on the exclusive Fisher Island, but told everyone he owned the entire apartment building of 54 luxury units.
Isn't this funny that when I went to University of Miami, I had a Saudi friend who also lived on Fisher Island. It's insane. He, of course, was like a real, he was like a real Saudi. He wasn't a royal, but he was a real wealthy Saudi person who went to University of Miami. Yeah. They owned, his dad owned the, what was it? I think it was a Lamborghini, Lotus, and Bentley. Like all, they don't anymore. But his dad owned the, his family owned all of the Lamborghini, Bentley, and Rolls Royces and Lotuses in Saudi Arabia, like all the dealerships.
It was like he was back at grade school, telling lies about his status and wealth to win friends. Anthony had a proposal for Carl. The world's largest company at the time, Saudi Aramco, had announced they were considering going public. The Saudi Arabian oil company was valued at a record $2 trillion. And Anthony claimed that as a Saudi prince, he could offer a quote,
"Bro, I'm not kidding. He's like Ariana Grande. He could be Korean here, okay? My man could have slipped into that so quick. Like, he's Colombian, but he like lied and said he was like Saudi. But right here, if he just told motherfuckers he's like, he looks less Arab. He looks more Korean than he looks Arab here.
Friends and family special for potential investors. Carl didn't hesitate. He agreed to set up an investment company for the prince, Martin Williamson International. Carl worked his connections and told potential investors about his opportunity to buy the pre-IPO, or pre-initial public offering, so that when Aramco does go public, they would see the same level of returns as the Saudi royal family would. High net worth individuals would need to first demonstrate their respect and devotion to Prince Khalid by presenting him with extravagant gifts such as jewelry and Rolex watches. Altogether, Anthony and Carl fooled 26 people into handing over a total of $8 million. None of the funds were ever put into business opportunities or legitimate investments. Not only did they con wealthy business people, bankers, and attorneys, they also convinced regular people to give them significant amounts of their money.
Regular people? Who the fuck's a regular person that's like, oh yeah, here's $100,000 so I can own a piece of like an Saudi Aramco pre-IPO
money. Victim impact statements reveal that several of these people have not been able to recover from their financial loss. Carl helped usher Anthony into a whole new league of white-collar fraud. Anthony always knew how to look and talk the part, but now he had connections to real high flyers to give him credibility. Carl even purchased diplomatic license plates from eBay for the prince to adorn on his luxury.
Wait, why can you do that? Why is that allowed? This dude's awesome.
Vehicles. Anthony and his entourage hung out on his yacht, took joyrides in his Ferrari, ordered thousands of dollars worth of food at Miami's top restaurants, and posted it all on Instagram. But Anthony's appetite for opulence was only growing, and he soon found his next target. Jeffrey Soffer is a billionaire real estate developer who lived the life that Anthony Gignac pretended to live. The Soffer family owns several hotels and apartment buildings in Florida, including the iconic Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami. Jeffrey split his time between his super yacht and 3 mansions, traveled in private jets, and was married to supermodel El.
You really think I'm going to be sad if this guy scammed him? I really hope this guy got scammed by the fucking fake Saudi dude.
McPherson. However, the Fontainebleau Hotel had been struggling with debt for several years. So when a call from a representative of Prince Khalid bin al-Saud came in, Jeffrey was immediately interested. The Saudi prince wanted to buy a 30% interest in the Fontainebleau.
Yeah, I'm sorry. This is ridiculous. Okay.
For $440 million, an overvaluation of about $140 million.
He's the least Saudi looking man I've ever seen in my entire life.
The prince informed Jeffrey Soffer's team that he owned an entire high-rise apartment building on the exclusive
he became Peruvian. Yeah, like literally.
Fisher Island. But something about the way the prince was conducting business just felt a little off. Jeffrey did his due diligence and ordered a background check on Prince Khalid while inviting him and his entourage on a trip to Aspen. They boarded Jeffrey's private jet and soon found themselves in the lobby of the Grand St. Regis Aspen Resort. Prince Khalid's phone rang. It was the management of the apartment he was renting. They had received an inquiry about whether he owned the whole building. Khalid realized that Jeffrey was onto him and reacted by throwing a huge tantrum in the middle of the lobby. "You've insulted my honor," the prince screamed. "My father, the king, is going to be very upset." He threatened to back out of the Fontainebleau deal unless the Soffers presented him with a gift as a sign of respect. The next day, the group reconvened for lunch. Jeffrey, who had already gifted the prince artwork and a $5,000 diamond-encrusted dog collar for Foxy, gave Khalid a $50,000 Cartier bracelet. This seemed to placate the prince, and they proceeded to their meal. Jeffrey glanced over at Khalid and noticed he was eating a large portion of prosciutto. Alarm bells immediately started.
Are you fucking joking? Bro. First of all, oh, this is the funniest ending. It's the funniest conclusion. Brother, do cocaine, gamble, engage in usury, drink alcohol, but never eat pork. It is the one rule of Islam, which is not even like a rule, but it's a joke in every fucking Muslim community. Motherfuckers will do everything on the planet, every haram thing under the sun, but they will never eat pork. And when you don't grow up eating pork, unlike me, okay, I even broke that cardinal sin, you don't develop a taste for it. So that's part of the reason why most people who don't even give a shit about Islam will like never turn around and fucking eat pork ever, because they just don't care about it. It's literally the joke.
Started ringing, as pork is a forbidden meat in the Islamic faith. Back in Miami, Jeffrey and his team started digging deeper into the prince. They enlisted the help of a private investigator who produced a long report of the fake prince's 30-year scam.
My Muslim homie from college was bi and did coke but would not touch a piece of bacon. Yeah. Straight up. Straight up, dude. I'm telling you. It's like, it's mostly cultural after a certain point, but It's not even a fucking joke. Like it's a, I mean, it is a joke. It is a joke in the Muslim world where it's like you just don't eat pork.
Anthony Gignac had been arrested or convicted 11
My man went to jail for prosciutto
times in his life, and it was concluded that he may have really started to believe he was a prince. His goal was to get close with the Soffa family, so he could tell potential investors that he was close with the Soffa family. He had no intention of ever purchasing the Fontainebleau Hotel. This report was then handed over to the FBI, and the Diplomatic Security Service, or DSS, was assigned to the case. Anthony and Carl had been traveling around Dubai, Hong Kong, and London to meet up with more potential investors. They were now offering opportunities to invest in a non-existent casino and pharmaceutical company. Anthony was of course flying with someone else's passport. DSS agents were waiting for him when they landed at JFK International Airport on the 19th of November 2017. Anthony was placed under arrest and his false passport and belongings were all seized. He protested in the middle of the airport, screaming that he had diplomatic status.
SS chat, Secret Service, calm
When
down.
that didn't work, he tried a different tactic. I have national security information you'd be interested in hearing, he offered. Carl Williamson's North Carolina home was raided on the 14th of December 2017. Federal agents interrogated him for 6 hours, but he insisted that he didn't know the prince.
He's so fucking smart. He's so smart. Immediately, I have national security interests. Dude, come on. I can't get over his fake Arabic ass going to Dubai. Did he just stick to English? Yeah, probably.
Was a fake. That same night, Carl tried to hang himself. He died 2 days later from the injuries. In May 2018, Anthony Gignac pleaded guilty to impersonating a foreign diplomat, aggravated identity theft, and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. Investigators discovered dozens of forged documents from over the years that supported Anthony's claims of being a Saudi prince. Federal agents seized $450,000 worth of jewelry, along with $80,000 in cash and various pieces of.
It's awesome because, like, oh God, what a perfect demonstration that, like, rich people are not rich because they're fucking smart and they earned it. You know what I mean? Especially at that level, most of the motherfuckers that he's conning are like recipients of intergenerational wealth. So they just think, oh, this is one of our own. You know what I mean? It's awesome. I mean, this guy was so dumb. He was eating fucking pork while portraying himself as like a Saudi guy. Ay. It's 2017. How did he not know the internet is booming? I think in the internet era, like he did the Instagram shit. Like he used the internet to his, like I was saying, he used the internet to his advantage because you can do like really solid, you can portray yourself a certain way, just like I said with Andrew Tate in the internet era, and capture the attention of like people because he just looks a certain way.
Expensive artwork. However, it was discovered that some of Anthony's watches and jewelry were fake, and much of his bling were actually cheap glued-on diamonds. His cars and yachts were all rentals. His Fisher Island penthouse only had a few pieces of store-bought furniture inside, even though he hired an interior designer who had royal clientele. Anthony was sentenced to 18 years in prison. He finally owned up in front of the judge. Quote, "The entire blame of this entire operation is on me, and I accept that." He is currently serving his sentence at the Federal Detention Center in Miami. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to.
My boyfriend is obsessed with you and we just had sex with you in the background. Thanks, Hasan. You're welcome, Rafiki, DJ. I hope you guys had great sex. He wins the ultimate con. Our taxes allowing 3 hots and a cot. Well, I mean, he lived a pretty good life. His IG is still active, is what people were saying. Maybe someone else is managing it or something. No, it's not active. Yeah, no. Go Heat. Thanks, Goran Dragic. You are my favorite Heat player. nail polish choice, though. Bro, he had the... Dude, this is how people thought he was still a royal. Because he has that finger thing that the British king has. You know what I'm saying? What rich person is playing fucking slots? I mean, I guess high stakes slots, maybe? He actually escaped to Brazil and changed his name to George Anthony Devalder Santos. God is real. I like the mentality of people that go back to his Instagram, old-ass Instagram page and say, like, fuck you, dude. Like, what, did you get conned by him? Why are you so mad? Like, this guy is writing for America in the chat. I feel bad for his adopted family. They brought him to America not to defraud people, nor to focus on material items. From his brother, seems like he really needed to address his bipolar manic depression. So sad. Like, it seems like they're more mad because he, like, was a fake rich person. You know what I mean? Like, if his family was just rich and he did all of this shit and, like, conned a bunch of people, like the only problem with this guy, the only issue with him was that he was just not born into intergenerational wealth. So many people do this shit all the fucking time, and it's not even criminal. The irony. Hope you live the rich life in the state pen, you thieving pig, where you fat, dirty ass belongs. I love that. You're like, you didn't even want to write ass. Put dollar signs. That's valid. That's justifiable. You should always do this.